Hey everybody, welcome to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, visionrecordingstudios.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And today we are going to take a look at, yes, everyone knows about Studio One version 3.0, came out the other day. And there's now videos all over YouTube, everyone talking about what they like, what they don't like, giving their reviews. And I've been asked by many of my subscribers to kind of do a follow-up video to my first video about Presonus version. I think it was version 2 point some odd at that point a couple of years ago, the 15 things I like about Studio One. And many people have asked me, am I going to do another 15 things I like about Studio One for the new version? And so I figured I'd go ahead and I'd give you my take on this new version of Studio One. I've been working with it now for well over a month. Was very honored and glad to be a part of the beta testing team, and I thank Presonus for allowing me to do that. Hopefully that's okay to say here. I don't know. I don't think it's a problem, but anyhow, I was very, very pleased to be asked and was very anxious to work with the new version, and I do appreciate them listening and allowing me to be a part of that. And so I have a little bit of experience with it. And so now I'll give you my opinions, and I do have 15 things that I like about the new Studio One. However, it's different than the first one. The first video I did, the 15 versions about that I liked, the 15 things I liked about the version 2.0 version back a couple of years ago when I made that video. That video was really geared around things that Presonus did that other DAWs did not do at the time. At the time, I know things have changed since that video. And also at that time, I was a brand new Studio One user. And so I had said that in the video that I was still learning the program, but I found 15 items that Studio One did that most other DAWs at the time did not do. This time around, although I have 15 things that I like about this new version, I can't say any of them from my experience are anything that other DAWs don't already currently do. Doesn't mean Studio One doesn't do them as good or better. It just means that it's not new. It's kind of stuff that most DAWs in my experience, because I use a few different platforms due to my business and being a mixing engineer. I have to use other DAWs from time to time because that's what clients send me as far as session files, whether it be Pro Tools, Cubase, Logic Pro, or Studio One. And so the things that I'm going to go over today are things that are pretty much in all those other DAWs as well, for the most part. And again, don't quote me on every single one of those items, where, again, as the first video I did back a couple of years ago was really things that Studio One was doing, I thought, better and different than most other DAWs. So having said that, I will say right up front, if you don't want to watch this video, because I'm sure it's going to be pretty lengthy, I'll just get to the punchline here at the beginning. So if you want to stop this video and, and go somewhere else, you can. Do I recommend, if you're a Studio One user and you're using version 2.65 or whatever the version was, the last version of version 2 before this version, is it worth upgrading? And my feeling on that is this. One of the things that I think Presonus did really, really well with this new version of Studio One 3 is where they really seem to really heavily focus on was the music production piece and MIDI instruments and all the new VST instruments and all the new loops and all the new sounds and all the new composing tools like the scratch pad and things I'm not going to go into today because, quite frankly, I don't really use MIDI on a regular basis. I don't use things like the scratch pad and those arranger and those kinds of things. That's not what I do in my daily life and my daily workflow. I'm a mixing and mastering engineer, and I do primarily mixing and mastering. I don't do a lot of song production and composing. Where that is really where I think version 3 here is really set itself apart from version 2, is they really heavily focused on those features for those types of users. And I think that's wonderful. And so if you're one of those people who do lots of songwriting, lots of song arranging, song production, use lots of VST instruments and software instruments, and you need all kinds of sound libraries. And I think the new version has like 15 gigabytes of different loops and sounds and things like that. If that's where your main focus is within your studio, then I would say absolutely it's worth the upgrade. And again, I don't even know all the prices for the upgrade at this point. Go out to their website. I'm sure they're going to change all the time. And I know there's a bunch of different versions of Studio One, and you can kind of custom build your own version and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to get into quoting pricing. But I think if you're that type of user, I think you absolutely would want to consider upgrading from version 2 to version 3. If you're someone like myself who does primarily mixing and mastering, and you're happy with version 2.65, and you don't see any, you don't feel like you're losing any features, and you like the overall look and feel of it, is it absolutely imperative that you upgrade? I would say not necessarily. You know, again, if you have the budget and you have the money and you just want something new, something fresh, there's a couple of features I'm going to go over today that will enhance your workflow, which is really cool. But from the mixing mastering engineer, when that's solely what you do, I don't see, there's not really any features that were added here that are completely like, wow, that is something that's been missing for a long time. I really need to upgrade for this specific reason. At least I haven't found that reason yet. And someone I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong here. Again, I've only been using the program about a month, and I've mixed 3 full-length projects in this program. So I've used it and put it through its paces pretty good. And so I would say if you have the budget, if you want something new, you want a couple of cool little enhancements and some new little GUI features, then I think, yes, you should absolutely upgrade it. But again, I think Presonus really focused on the composer, and that's really where they were looking for songwriting, song arranging, VST instruments, VST software, MIDI, and expanding those capabilities. I think they did a wonderful job. Even though I don't use those features, from what I've seen and what little I've played with it, they really did a great job. And then I would say absolutely you should upgrade it. So that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. So if you want to bail out on the video now, go ahead. If not, I'm going to show you the 15 things that I like about this new version that was different from the last version, version 2. So obviously the very first thing everybody's talking about is the new look, right? The new color scheme. To me, when I open this up for the first time, it looks a lot more like Logic Pro than anything else. Not that that's a bad thing. It just has that feel, maybe because it's a darker color. I like the look of it compared to the last version. And if you want to, just compare apples to apples, there's the last version, version 2, right? Kind of gray, kind of old school, kind of 1990-ish look. And this has a much more, clean look, a little bit more contemporary look, and just a little easier on the eyes. So that's the first thing that I like, is the overall look of the GUI looks a lot nicer than the last one, and so that's really cool. And the second thing that you can you can do here is obviously you can change some of the color schemes. We'll go over into preferences, and I know I'm one of 50 people who have posted a video about this, but again, you can change the look of the GUI. If you want to take the edit screen and make it a little darker, you can bring it all the way over to the left. I like to make the edit screen a little bit lighter, almost like Pro Tools, so I can see the grid a little bit better, but that's just me. But you can change that. And they have some presets of things that you can change. If you want to do different color schemes, you can change the background, the hue, you can change it, over to more of a reddish or a purplish background, over to the green backgrounds. You can customize the look to what you like. So I think that's really cool. And I think that's something that, that's a plus. And that's been something that people have asked for, myself included. They wanted to get rid of that old tired look of this. And although I've got used to this, this compared to this, version 3 looks a lot better in my mind. So those 2 things are great. Obviously the next thing, when you talk about coloring and such, is you can now obviously change the colors of the channel strips. Okay, so you can color code your channel strips by opening up this little wrench here, and you can uncheck this box and you can color code your channel strips. That's something that people have been asking for, which makes things a lot easier to find, borrowing that from kind of the Pro Tools way of doing things. That was the old way where only the bottom was colored. Now the whole thing is colored. I think that is an enhancement that I like. That's the third enhancement that I really enjoy. Then obviously you can change the fader height, which is really cool. Again, you couldn't do that in version 2. So that's really nice. That's a nice feature that people have been asking for. So that's, kind of my fourth liking of it. And again, most of these things are cosmetic, nothing that's changing the world, but it's something that they're finally coming up to speed with other DAWs, and I think that's wonderful, and it was a nice addition. One thing that I really like, which I don't see any other company doing, this is probably new compared to other DAWs, is you can now, in the browser, you have icons for your effects, and it comes standard like that with the Presonus effects, but you can also do it with with third-party stuff. It doesn't have to just be a Presonus plugin. You can see here on my Sample Magic, I have icons here. And the way to do that, if you want to know how to do that, is you would just, let's see, I could just take a Waves plugin, for example, drag this onto a track, and then I can come over to this little arrow here and go Update Plugin Thumbnail, and it'll put a picture of it on the in the browser, which is kind of nice. So if you're someone who has, let's say you own Universal Audio and you have a lot of their plugins, when you load up all the Universal Audio software, all the plugins get installed on your system and it'll be in your browser, but you may not own all of them. So one good way to see what your go-to plugins are, which ones you own and which ones you don't own, is by making an icon for the ones that you own. So I think that's pretty cool. So the fact that it makes things easier to find in the browser to have icons for your plugins, I think that's really cool. I don't know any other DAW that currently does that. At least I'm not aware of it. So that is a bonus. I think that is really cool. That's a nice feature. Okay, that was number 5. Number 6, the tracks in the mixer follow the edit screen, meaning that in the past, let me just shrink this down a little bit. If you were to move, let's say, this bass track that I have highlighted here in blue, and you were to move it over a couple of tracks to the right, it wouldn't follow in the edit screen. Up in the edit screen, the bass track would not follow necessarily, especially if they were in folders. It would kind of move all over the place, and it would take kind of some, figuring out almost the Rubik's Cube on how to move these things in a way where they would all line up. Where this way, you move it, it automatically moves it along with the edit screen. It follows it, which is really kind of nice. So that's kind of a nice little enhancement there. Again, from a workflow standpoint, not setting the world on fire, but again, it's one of those things that should have been in version 2. Really cool that it's in version 3. The other thing too is that when you have a folder worth of tracks here, let's just say our drum folder, and if you were to move the folder on the edit screen, it will move all the tracks in the mixer, which is cool. So right now I moved my drums folder all the way beneath my vocals folder, and it moved the drums along with it. And if I were to move my drum folder back up to the top where I would normally keep it, it will move all the tracks along with it to the far left, which is kind of cool. So again, that's something that's a little different in version 3. I think, again, from a workflow standpoint and for setting up and organizing sessions, I think that's really cool. Another feature which I really like in this version that was not in version 2 is in the edit screen, your little pointer tool here. Let me open up a track. Let me just open up something so we can see this a little bit better. So if you can now assign a secondary tool for when you're using the command key. It's similar. It's starting to kind of be like the Smart tool is in Pro Tools, where you could click on this arrow here, and if I want my second tool to be, say, the split tool, so now when it's, I'm on the arrow tool, but if I hold down my command key, it changes to my split tool, okay, and then I can split, right? And when I let go of the command key, it goes back to the arrow tool. That's pretty cool. And again, if I wanted to change that to, say, the range tool, I would just click this little arrow, go over to the eraser tool, and now when I hold down my command key, it becomes the eraser, and I can click, and as you can see, it erased the track. As soon as I let go of the command key, it goes back to the pointer tool. I think that is pretty cool. That makes editing for me a lot faster. I keep it on my split tool because I'm using my split tool all the time. So that was a pretty cool feature as well. I think that was number 8, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll list these all on the screen as I'm going. If I'm coming out of order, I'm looking at notes and trying to do this at the same time. Another cool feature that I like from a workflow standpoint. Let me expand this a little bit. And what we can do is, if you were to highlight, let me just remove some of these. Let me remove a couple of this plugin here. So let's say, okay, I got to plug in a compressor here on here. Now let's say I wanted to put that on multiple tracks. If I hold down my shift key and I highlight a bunch of tracks and then drag over my compressor, it will populate it on all of the tracks, which is really good. And this is great for someone like me who does a lot of analog, vintage analog processing plugins where I'll use like the VCC or my tape machine. And I'm going to put my tape machine on 30 tracks. I highlight all 30 tracks. drop it on the first track, it drops it on all 30 tracks. That's very cool, and that helps. And let's say now I want to remove those from all those tracks. I only have to keep the track selected, hit remove all, remove all, and it removes them from all those selected tracks, which is kind of nice. So again, a little workflow enhancement. That's really cool. Let's see, number 10, track numbering. What I mean by that is, again, on the bass track, you can see track number 7, track number 8, track number 9, track number 10. That is not, I don't believe, in version 2. No, I can see there's no tracks. I had to manually number them when I labeled the track, but there's no track numbers here. But on version 3, there is. Again, something simple, but it's handy to know. How many tracks do I have in my session? If I didn't have these names with the numbers here, I can just easily scroll over to the end and go, oh, I have 30 tracks. And then I have all my bus tracks, my effects tracks. I have 46 tracks in my session. So that's pretty cool. So that's number 10. Number 11. This is cool. And this is a Pro Tools feature that you have to pay a lot of money for that Studio One gives you in this version for free. If I'm using in this case, a Presonus, the Studio One stock compressor on this bass track, and if I were to play back this bass track, we have gain reduction meter on the fader. Let me expand this a little bit so you can see it. I'll shrink it so you can see it. Okay, the more I open up the gain, the more I turn down the threshold. Gain reduction meters. This came out in Pro Tools not too long ago. You got to pay extra for this. Presonus put it in as part of the professional package. Nice addition. Not all DAWs do that. That's a very good addition. I like that. I will tell you what they did not do is you can't do that with a third-party compressor. It only works with the Presonus stock plugins at this point. That's kind of a drag, and I'll show you that. I'll put a compressor on that bass track and show you that it does not work with third-party compressors, only with stock compressors. If I remove the Presonus compressor and I do the same thing, we got gain reduction happening here. No gain reduction meter. So I think they dropped the ball on that one. Maybe that's coming soon. I'm a little surprised they didn't put that in, because most people that are doing, at least in my world, doing mixing and mastering on a professional level are not using only stock plugins. They're using a lot of third-party stuff. And so it would have been nice to have that. Maybe that's coming. I'm not dinging them, just giving you my opinion. I think that's something that should have been added along with the stock plugins. But I think it's cool they got it with the stock plugin, and I think that's a step in the right direction. So that is kind of cool. Another option which people may like here is if you click on this wrench, you can now, these little choices here, you can elect to keep the bus channels to the right and keep the effects channels to the right of the rest of your mix. I don't typically do that, but I know a lot of people do. I do with my bus channels. I shouldn't say that. So my bus channels are always down here. So now if I were to, oh, what's going on there with my cursor? There we go. If right now it's unchecked, unselected, so it will not keep the buses to the right. So if I were to create a bus track here, it's going to put it right next to the track that I have selected. Okay. Let me remove that. If I select with the wrench, keep the buses to the right, what's going to happen is if I highlight this track and create a bus, you're going to see it's going to put it all the way down here to the far right, which is kind of cool. Again, nice little workflow in setting up a session enhancement. That's pretty cool. So that's number 12. Same thing with effects channels. You can do effects and or buses, however you want to do it. So you can have the effects not go automatically to the right and the buses will go to the right, or vice versa, or whatever you like. So that's pretty cool. The other thing, number 13, now you can make your buses can be either mono or stereo buses. Before it was one or the other. Now you can just click this little button here. It'll go from mono to stereo. So you have the ability now to use mono buses. I typically only use stereo buses, but again, people have asked for that. I think it is. There are times where I would use a mono bus, but that's a cool feature that wasn't part of the last version. This is a pretty cool feature as well, being able to hide, when you hide tracks, let's scroll down over here to our kick drum. Let me shrink this for a second. So when you hide a track over here in your, let me open this up, our drum folder here. Okay. Let's say you want to hide this kick drum track, and I come over here to my, over here in my inspector, and I click the hide button. It will take it out of the edit screen, and it also takes it out of the mixer. Before, it would only take it out of the edit screen and not in the mixer, and you'd have to come over to the mixer, highlight the track, right click, and click hide. Now it kind of follows it, and if I unhide it, it will put it back in the edit screen, and it will put it back in the mixer back in its place. Again, pretty cool, nice workflow enhancement, and that was number 14. So those are the first 14 things that are different from version 2 to version 3. And I think those are all pretty cool enhancements. And I enjoy using some of those things, and I think it's helped me with some of my workflow. Number 15, I still think is really what sets this DAW apart from every other DAW on the market that I've been experienced with. Again, I can't speak for some of the platforms that I haven't used. But the number one thing that I love about Presonus Studio One has nothing to do with the program. It has to do with the online community and the support that Presonus gives. And I know this from firsthand because I've had issues in the past, minor issues. And Presonus has always been excellent in getting back to you with support, following through with support, trying to make their user base happy. And that's from the company side. From the community side, whether it be on the Presonus forums or whether it be on Facebook and some of the new pages that have been launched, the Home Studio Trainer support group over on Facebook, and the Presonus group on Facebook, people there are just awesome. And, you know, not that other DAWs don't have the same kind of online community, they do. But I can tell you from my experience, and again, I'm only speaking for myself, it's not even a comparison between what help and support and just general good people in the Presonus community, in my experience, is head and shoulders above any of the other DAW platforms. And again, you tie that together with the Presonus company themselves, and I think that alone is the price of admission. As far as if you're choosing a DAW, do I choose Studio One, or do I move from another platform to Studio One? The people that already own Studio One, version 2 going to version 3, that's really a personal preference. Whether you think the 14 other things I showed you, these little workflow enhancements, is that worth your whatever it is? At the time of this recording, anywhere from $99 to $150 to upgrade, or something like that. Don't quote me on that. Is it worth that price? Well, that really depends on your budget, and if you really want these little extra nuggets of workflow enhancement. There's nothing really here that isn't part of most other DAWs. But these features are things that weren't in version 2, and I think that that's important. So if you're a song production and a MIDI person and you're into software instruments, it's a no-brainer. You should upgrade. If you're not, like me, do you upgrade? It really depends on your budget. It depends on how much you really love version 2 and how much do you really want these other little enhancements that I just described. And there might be some others, but again, the program just came out the other day, so I'm sure we'll find some other little secret golden nuggets in there as time goes on. But when you talk about whether or not you should move from another platform to Presonus Studio One, or if you never bought a recording software before, should you purchase Studio One over the others? Again, the online support and the company's support themselves alone, I would highly recommend it just on those two things alone. Because when you have a problem, you can get help. You will get help. If it's not from Presonus themselves, although most times it is, it's from the online community. They're wonderful people, and I think that's worth it all day long. And for the people who don't use Studio One that are watching this video that are saying that Presonus, I'm on their payroll and they pay me with whatever to say these things, I can tell you, like anyone that knows me from my channel, that I'm not affiliated with Presonus. I'm not affiliated with any product that I ever show you, plugin or otherwise. Most of these companies don't know I exist. They don't pay me or give me gear or give me plugins or anything like that to say these things. The one thing that I vowed when I started my channel is I don't want to be affiliated with a company. I don't want to be on their payroll. I just want to show you what I use. I don't want to have I want it to be completely unbiased opinion on the product products that I like. And so I'm saying these nice things about Studio One and Presonus in general because I really do feel that way and because I've had great experience with them. So without babbling on too much longer, these are the 15 things that I really like about the new version of Studio One. Again, I think there's some things here I think they're still missing, and maybe that's for another video. I still think there's a few features that they missed. And if to make a baseball analogy, you know, did they hit a home run on this one? I think they hit maybe a triple. I don't think they hit a home run. I think there's a few features that should be in here that are not here yet, and maybe they're coming. You know, I don't have any inside information. And if they really wanted to hit a grand slam home run, I think they probably could have, you know, probably could have added some of these things. And again, I'll talk about those in another video. It's nothing major. A lot of it's just workflow enhancement. And I know you can't have everything. And I know it's not just as easy as I want this and they can just drop it in like it's, you know, like it's no big deal. I'm sure there's a lot of coding and a lot of thing that has to go on to make these things happen. But I think they did a nice job, and I do recommend it. And I think it's a great piece of software. And at the end of the day, everyone will have to make the choice for themselves. But I think they did a great job here. So good job, Presonus. They did a nice job on this, and I'll continue to use Presonus Studio One as my go-to DAW because I use all of them from time to time. But Studio One is the one I come back to the most. And when I have no other choice, then I move to something else. But if I have a choice, I will always use Studio One. And so that's it for now. I hope this video was helpful. It's probably so redundant to what the same things other people are putting out there, but I wanted my subscribers to hear from me. People have asked me what I thought about it, and now I'm telling you what I think about it. So for any other information about myself or my blogs and products and services and blah, 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 go over to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Check out what we got going on over there. And also visionrecordingstudios.com. So until next time, I will talk to you guys all soon. Take care.